And continuing on with our analysis into the Donald Trump shooting, we have uncovered a story from the Washington Post the other day where they have obtained a timestamped transcript of radio communications from the police during the shooting. So this will open up all new information for us that will help us complete the timeline. So let's see what unfolded and what new details get revealed. Okay, so in that communications transcript, the Washington Post pointed out here this quote directly from that transcript. It says, "Just an FYI, we had a younger white male, long hair, lurking around the AGR building, a local counter sniper said at 5:42 p.m. So this is according to that time-stamped transcript of the encrypted radio communications. And they also said he was viewed with a rangefinder sighting the stage, and we lost sight of him. So remember, this message was sent to the command post for the local police. Now, this appears to sort of jive with the time that some of these pictures were sent out in these group texts, see, around 5:45 p.m. there. And let me show you where that was. Okay, so what happened was the Secret Service had a command center, I believe this is referring to it over here, whereas the Butler and Beaver command center for the local cops was, I believe, in the right over here, because we saw them coming out of here in Dave Stewart's video right before Trump took stage. Remember, we saw all of the cops walking out over here in this area. So the problem is, if the local cops over here at the AGR building had an issue to work on, they had to radio their control center over here, and these guys had to pick up a phone, a cell phone, and call over here to the Secret Service command post over here, which also had the Pennsylvania state troopers in there. So you had two different places. It was kind of a weird setup of communication. Something happens over here, these guys have to pick up a phone and call these guys over here. That was the only method of communication they had. There was nobody from Secret Service over here, and there was nobody from over here in Secret Service command post. So that's where communications problem came from. See, and that's where the Washington Post had reported that nobody from Secret Service was inside that white trailer to hear the message. So the problem here was the lack of a direct link between the Secret Service trailer and the local police trailer. If you rewind back the clock a little bit to about 5:14, remember that's when they first spotted him with that picture, and then same the picture of the bike. By the way, we've already settled the whole thing about the bicycle. We've determined that it is not his bicycle, because that duffel bag that is on the bike is not his, and the backpack that's on the ground by the bike is not his as well, because it's not the same backpack as the one you saw up on the roof, because here's the one that you can see here on the roof in the close-up shots from the body cams of the police officers that were up there discussing it. And then you can, of course, see the medic's backpack next to the medic there on the roof.
Bomb squad had me for about an hour. Then the ATF had me. Then they took me in to sit and talk to the FBI. ATF come back in and says, "Mr. Evans, we're getting you out of here."
They thought you were the shooter.
No, they thought I had the bomb.
It's a pretty sweet bike.
A buddy of mine gave it to me a couple years ago and decided I'm going to ride it cross country.
Have you done it yet?
I'm on my journey now.
Oh, what?
And now I'm stalled here.
Where are you going?
Boise.
Oh, you're making it out to Idaho.
I gave myself 100 days. If we get out of here today, we're going to be at the convention tomorrow.
News stations have already interviewed the guy that owned the bike. He had been detained by police during that time, and they released him afterwards. He's just a guy that apparently, I guess he takes his bike across state there to multiple events. And so then between that time and I guess around 5:45, that's when they were sending all of these group texts and everything about the suspect. Okay, yeah. So then the local officer, Lenz, who's in the local police command post there, he used his cell phone to call the state police officer in the Secret Service trailer. So this is that communication method that I told you about. So then a few minutes later, this is important to note here, so Lenz had radioed to the local officers that help was on the way. So they were already sending backup at 5:45. And he told him here that the state police and sheriffs should be en route. So he told them that at 5:45 p.m. So now we are about 26 minutes before the shooting. every time they tried to recirculate the photos around this time, they were having problems because, look, at 5:47, one of the other officers says, I'm trying to forward photographs of the individual. Then an advisement came out over the radio here that says, units be advised, internet and cell service is down. Another officer on that channel said a minute later. And then then look at this, man. He told him, your picture's probably not going to go through because I don't have any service. This was at 10 to 6. So this is about 21 minutes before the shooting. So this was the time then, or they're saying around this time at about 10 minutes to 6 is when they alerted the Secret Service Hercules team. You know, that's their counter snipers. So at this time is likely when Secret Service was told that they are seeing somebody suspicious. They're looking for the guy, but they don't have a visual on him right now. And at this point, he doesn't have a gun. So then it says that Lenz enlisted more officers, including police, handling the traffic on the roads outside the rally site. So now at 5 minutes to 6 here, about 5:54, he says our Sierra units lost visual of him. So he's referring to like Officer Greg Nickel and the other guys that are upstairs in the building. Finally, at 6:02 p.m., Greg Nickel gets on his radio and he goes, all right, subject is in between the AGR building. He has a backpack. And the Beaver County District Attorney had said that Nickel was moving within the building looking for crooks. So remember, Trump was here on stage. This is where their shooter was. The police snipers were stationed in this building. And so Officer Greg was he was stationed at these two windows here, and he was walking around the building from window to window following the shooter. And he saw him, let me show you here. He saw him sitting on a picnic table right here. And that's indicated by the Butler report. See, so here's their slide from the police report. So here it is at 16:05 hours. And so this is 6:05. This is 6 minutes before the shooting. And so the officer was likely looking out this window, and the suspect was noticed sitting at a picnic table. And so he gets up from the picnic table and he starts walking in this direction here. And then the officer loses sight of him because when he walks around this part of the building between these two wings of the building, this is sort of a dead end. And I don't know if the officer was aware of it. He might have been. It's just hard to tell from that angle how much of the roof that they could see over there. But he is going in this general direction. So I guess right around 6:05 p.m. is when Officer Greg Nichols says he just went towards the Sheets, referring to the gas station about a quarter of a mile away. So let me show you why. There was a little bit of controversy because some people were thinking, why would he say Sheets when the guy walked in between the buildings? So if we pull up the complex here, so remember the picnic table was here and the officer is in this building looking down on him on the window and sees him walking diagonally in this direction, like the slide said, right? Well, if we look in that direction, he was walking in the direction of Sheets. So it's not like the officer was incorrect. He was using it as sort of a landmark, and a very accurate landmark. He said, look, he's walking towards the Sheets. He probably didn't know at that point in time whether this was a dead end here or not, this courtyard area that the suspect went into. And guess what, people? This now brings up another potential point of entry onto the roof by the shooter. Because if we zoom all the way in here, and we're going to go all the way to the parking lot, and let's zoom in. And so the picnic table that he saw him at it could have been this here, or it might have been somewhere else, but we saw on the Spa Guy's drone video last week that the table was here, where the officer likely saw him. So if he got off this table and walked here and disappears around this wall into this courtyard area here, this is in the direction of Sheets. But look what happens when we zoom in here. He could have crawled up onto this air conditioner and then scaled this vertical pipe here to get onto this roof over here, and then very easy to get onto here and then run all the way up, then run all the way south towards his final position where he was at. So this does provide a third possible location. And if you look at the testimony from the FBI director a couple of weeks ago, he did say that there was some video somewhere that shows him accessing the roof through an air conditioner and a vertical pipe. So at that point, when the shooter disappears around the corner, Officer Gregg decides to go downstairs and outside to look for him. And that was probably the mistake there, because, leaving the post, and when he should have been back over here, it's still debatable whether he could have seen all the way down that roof anyway. But during that time window where he was downstairs, the shooter had probably already gotten up onto the roof by 6:06 p.m. Officer Lenz in the police command post sends out this along the radio. It says, "All units be advised also that individual is headed towards Sheets." So that was radioed at 6:04 p.m. actually. So then at 6:06 p.m., you got an officer that says he's reportedly between the building up here at AGR somewhere. I'm guessing the west side, east side looks clear. And then at 6:07 p.m., Officer Lenz on the police post says they should have a fairly good perimeter. If you get another visual, let me know. 6:07 p.m. is when that happened. Less than a minute later, he was spotted again, this time up on the roof. So at 6:08 p.m., a local officer radios, "Someone's on the roof. I have someone on the roof with white shorts." And so the likely viewing point was up here by these trees and the grassy knoll area up here. Because remember, the building is set down a hill. So all of the people standing up here on the grass are the ones that shot that famous video showing the shooter up here crawling along the roof.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof, big guy.
And so there was at least one officer in this area that we know of, and we know that there was more surrounding this area, and more were arriving in the parking lot at that same time. And a lot of that was evident in the Dave Stewart video.
Cops surrounding this whole entire building right now.
And then somebody else reports, "We do not have assets on the roof." That is not us. Now you can see at 6:09, 2 minutes before the shooting, this is actually 2.5 minutes before the shooting, Lenz dialed the state trooper again to inform him of the suspect on the roof. And remember, at this point, he's still not armed yet. They still don't know that he has a gun. He's just a guy on the roof. And then another officer said over the radio he had a good view of the male on the roof. And then they were saying, "Here, we've got him. We don't have him in custody yet, but he's straight in front of me by the pine tree, standing upwards. He has a backpack." So we know the backpack made it up to the roof. Now, of course, many of the conspiracy theory people are yelling at me left and right on the comments going, "Come on, how could anybody have gotten in that roof there with a gun?" That question sounds like really stupid. Are these people really that uninformed? Don't they know that these guns can break apart into two pieces? Boom. And I even showed you this on my other video, and yet they still keep coming and asking the same question over and over again, hoping that maybe none of the people that read the comments know about the picture that I posted. But here it is again, and I'll show it to you, and I'll leave it up a while for you to understand and grasp that these guns these are 39-inch max length guns. And when you break them apart in half, you got 18 inches. That easily fits in a backpack. And then another officer said lost sight of him. The trooper was chasing him, trying to follow him around the building. Then, of course, at the same time, that famous video was taking place where everybody saw the shooter crawling up the roof. So then at 6:10 p.m., another officer gets on the radio and says, "Last time I seen him was by the pine tree between the two buildings, the small walkway joining the buildings." The officer who earlier spotted crooks on the roof reported at 6:10. So then here's that famous claim here that at 6:11, a local officer hoisted up to the roof line by a colleague reported the first sign that a man on the roof was in fact a deadly threat. So right here, they say on the transcript, "He's armed," the officer said, according to the transcript. "I saw him. He's laying down." And then it says here, "He's got a long gun," the officer said again onto the radio. So this is now at 6:11, and you've got basically 30 seconds to go before the shooting. So anyway, it says seconds later here, Lenz radioed the Butler Quick Response Force. So they were the ones that were based in the barns behind the rally stage that I showed you before on the Dave Stewart video. But they had moved out into the field and were already facing the AGR building. And as he was telling these guys here, QRF from command, you need to deploy to the AGR building. BT has a male on the roof with a long gun. They have made contact with him. So as he was saying that is when the shots rang out right here. Shots fired at 6:11. It was actually probably 6:11 and 30 seconds, somewhere right around that time frame. So unfortunately, because they just got that notice about the gun, the officials in the local command center were not able to pass on the message about the armed man to the Secret Service command post in time. There simply wasn't enough time to make that cell phone call. So had they been in the same trailer, the Secret Service would have found out with 30 seconds notice. Is that enough time to react and look for him and get him in your sights and shoot? We'll never know. Maybe, maybe not. Had they been in the trailer, I think the odds would have been certainly a lot better for them. And this is important. This is why when you have multiple agencies working together like this, why you need to have heads of each area there all together in that same command post. One command post. Everything flows into that command post. All communications go in and out of that command post. And so remember, the shooter had crawled up somewhere around here on the roof. And remember that ladder that everybody kept saying was the shooters? It's just so it's still idiotic that at this point we still have to try to explain to people. So we're not going to explain it anymore. We're just going to show you. They said, oh, it was blocked by these trees. It's not blocked by the trees because anybody walking by here, and there was a lot of cops in this parking lot here walking around the building searching for the shooter because they didn't know he was on the roof. They thought he was hidden around here somewhere. So they had already been checking all these nooks and crannies, and they would have seen the ladder if it was there, and they would have used it. They wouldn't have had to have one cop hoist up another cop. And if you look at this pine tree here, there's a 3-foot space on this side, and you would have had a direct line of sight to the ladder. And then if you come over here to this side, you can see there's another 3-foot space on this side. So if you came from it from either direction here, or even walking by, you would have noticed that ladder easily. And you notice how some of the conspiracy theory people who keep dwelling on this ladder issue, they keep changing their story. So whatever new information you come out with, their story keeps trying to change. It's like they just get more and more desperate because that is what their job is. Their job is to, no matter what you say, is to just completely reject it and throw all sorts of nonsense and Hail Mary passes at it and see what sticks on the wall there. They could die and be resurrected and still not even believe that they were resurrected. Make sure you check out these other 2 videos that I've uploaded over the last couple of days here. These are the fresh new videos for you to check out. If you haven't been here on this channel, you want to binge watch those. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.